B.J. Palmer said it so eloquently and so well. He said, I put all my eggs in one basket and I insure it well. Someone came to him and said, hey, I've got this investment for you. He says, why do you come to me? He's like, because you have a lot of money. He goes, and how did I make this money? And they said, well, in this institution you have. He's like, well, then I'll just keep putting the money where I know how to make it, because I don't put money in any place my heart's not in. That dude still has royalties coming into his estate. Really playing to win is dangerous because it's where high risk equals high return lives. Playing to win is at, I know I'm kind of saying the same things a couple times here, at any cost, but I just want you to really consider that in your life and say, is it the game you want? Does it leave you in a place where you're really happy? I've talked to a lot of people like, I check the boxes, I'm unhappy, because they didn't have the purpose. They didn't know how to relax or rejuvenate or do any of that kind of stuff, because all they knew was work. And in my early 20s, that's all I knew. I was going to play to win. I was going to do whatever it took. And my goal was I just wanted to have more money than anyone I knew. And every time I met someone that had more money than me, I kind of hated them a little bit, and I just worked harder, And I was like upset about it and frustrated, and then I'd work more and I'd neglect my family that much more. And it's just amazing I'm still married, to be honest with you. Fortunately I had a paradigm shift, had a mindset shift, where I started thinking about investing in my marriage and doing the same things in my marriage that I was doing in my business, like regular meetings, having a vision, having mentors, reading books, all those same things in other areas of my life. My health being one of those. When I was 22 pounds heavier, higher creatinine levels with my kidney, because I come from a family that's got a ton of kidney disease, and all of a sudden when I got intentional and deliberate about that and used the exact same success formula I had in my business to these other areas of my life, it got better, but I had to have a success measure other than just the money. That's still a nice benchmark. It's still one indicator. It's just not the only indicator, right? So playing to win is reckless when it comes to investing. People that play to win are susceptible to the latest trends, the latest hot topics. They get really into the greed mode, because all of a sudden they might hear about someone making a bunch of money in real estate. Like, oh my God, I got to get in real estate. I'm missing out on this whole thing. But that's not part of their investor DNA a lot of times. Your investor DNA is your core values, your core competencies. It's really your core drivers, and you focus instead of diversify. B.J. Palmer said it so eloquently and so well. He said, I put all my eggs in one basket and I insure it well. Someone came to him and said, hey, I've got this investment for you. He says, why do you come to me? He's like, because you have a lot of money. He goes, and how did I make this money? And they said, well, in this institution you have. He's like, well, then I'll just keep putting the money where I know how to make it, because I don't put money in any place my heart's not in. That dude still has royalties coming into his estate, right? A lot of us are here in this conversation because of what he initiated. And by the way, when I heard, you took 8 weeks off, but more, it's like he said, the bigger the vision, the more often you should travel. He said oftener or some weird statement. People used to think I look like BJ, but I just smile too much. And if anyone can find a picture of him smiling, that would be a miracle. So, yeah. So playing to win is very dangerous dogma. And especially when it comes to investing, because it's usually driven by greed and fueled only by return. But will the money return if it's not part of something you understand? Because risk is not actually in the investment. Risk is in you, the investor. What kind of investor are you? Are you investing in things that you know and understand? And if you don't know or understand it, move to cash. There's going to be a lot of money that transfers hands in the next couple of years. Now, it's going to be reported as lost money, but it won't be lost. It will be transferred to someone else that's in the know, with people that were gambling and speculating but calling it investing. So when we get to this third category, it's the game changer around life and investing, and it's really been the secret weapon that, maybe I'm kind of an a-hole because I should have shared it earlier, because this is how we hit New York Times with killing sacred cows. It's how we hit Inc. 500 with the company that I started in the financial services field. And I was like, as soon as I really uncovered it, I kind of just utilized it, and then I shared it with a few of our inner circle people. And then one day I was telling someone about it, they're like, why haven't you written on this before? Why don't you talk about this very much? I'm like, oh, it just became kind of the elusive obvious. Once I got it, it just made sense. So this third category is we win, then play. It's a completely different mindset. How does that even work? Let's go through a few examples of it. Let's go back into the old days, and then we'll bring it into current days, and I'll even give some personal examples from me. France gave the United States the Statue of Liberty. Very nice gift, very cool, but they didn't give it any platform that it could be put on. So now all of a sudden, the US government is like, okay, we've got this statue that we've got, what are we gonna do with it? And they had a genius idea, which I don't know that they have a lot, so this is really important. Really important. They decided to advertise in New York newspapers that if you were to donate 6 cents, that you could actually be the first people to go visit the Statue of Liberty, and that 6 cents that all these different people donated built a platform. So think about how genius this is. They actually had the people that wanted to come and see it fund it. The people got something for fund it that they got to be the first to go actually experience it. So that was win then play. That was win then play. Like the NFL right now is so win then play because does anyone remember the Super Bowl, if you watch football, between the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks? I remember it because that was the time where my son became a turncoat. He left the Chicago Bears because he thinks they really suck, and we as a family like torture, so we continue to support the Bears. And he became a Seahawks fan because they beat Denver by so much that it was a horrendously boring game. But the NFL didn't make less money. They'd already pre-sold all the tickets. They'd already had all the concerts planned. They had already sold the TV rights before the game was ever played. They won first, then played. Like when it comes to investing, how do you win first, then play? You make money on the buy, for example. When the market goes down, which it has to go down, otherwise I'm retiring from this game. If it doesn't go down by the end of 2020, I'm not speaking on finance anymore because there's nothing that makes sense in the financial world at that point. Hype can bring the market to the level it's been at to a certain degree, but the fact that in history we've never seen these types of price to earnings ratios. If we go back to pre-2008, we haven't seen these kind of debt ratios ever before. And by the way, there's only been one time in history in the United States, I know we're in Canada, but I'm using the United States for this one, where we've had a longer period of time without a recession. And that just came with the Great Depression right after that time, by the way. So I think there's going to be a lot of wealth transferred, even though the news is going to report it as wealth that's lost. Money doesn't evaporate, it goes into other hands. It leaves one place and goes to another place. Are you going to be the one that actually collects that money, or has it collected from you? Well, win then play is going to be the game, because when the market goes down substantially, that's when you can make money. When you're highly liquid, when you've got access to cash, when if the market goes down, you're not participating in the downside, you can pounce and you can capitalize. Ted Turner, more land in the United States is owned by Ted Turner than any other private individual. He win then plays. He waits for the market to go down, he has cash, he negotiates it at a 20% discount because he can close quickly, and all of a sudden he's already made the money. It's already more valuable the day that he buys it. Whether it's buying the Atlanta Braves, whether it's buying other billboard companies, like you could go through his history, and he's a genius investor. They call him a predatory investor. Now, I'm not asking you to be a predator where you're preying on the weak or the people that are unfortunate, but where you're going to provide a lot of return is when other people need liquidity. So if you don't know why you're earning money, what your exit strategy is, who your fund managers are, how it's benefiting you, you're not investing, you're gambling, move to cash. I'm being very bold about that because I don't want you to regret it down the road when you didn't listen. When you're like, he's extreme, it's going to be fine. Okay. I'll bail you out at that time if you need it. Just go ahead and call me.
Can I just comment on something? I'm a client of Garrett's, and I followed that advice on the Friday before the market crashed, and we saved $20,000. We moved to cash. My kids' 529 plans didn't plummet, and we saved about 20 grand.
I like you.
I love you too.
We met in Toronto, ironically, in April, thanks to an ice storm that we just were standing around waiting for the gate to come, and started working together. Had dinner the next day. Found out he knew Tom. I'm like, small world. So win then play, the way that I did it with Killing Sacred Cows is I pre-sold 22,000 books before the book was released. Now, I did it by creating value up front and telling people, this is back in the day where there were DVDs. I give people a DVD on it. We did an 8-week teleseminar series, so we gave them all this value up front, but now we pre-sold the book so that when I was writing it, I was actually writing it for someone. And I was getting feedback from those readers along the way that pre-purchased the book, and then all of a sudden we hit the ground running where we hit New York Times, and then it got more distribution because of that. Like, it was a win-then-play strategy. The very first time I ever put out a video series, I went to all of our existing fans and subscribers and said, hey, we're into a video series, but before we film the first video, we'd like to share with you an outline. We'd love to get your feedback, and if you're willing to invest right now, we'll give it to you at 50% of what we're going to charge when it's completed for a couple of reasons. One, because you don't get it up front. You have to wait for it to be completed. Number two, we want your feedback. So we actually got $150,000 in our accounts before we filmed the first video. Win, then play. It's a mindset. It's a methodology. It requires integrity. Only people that integrity get to do it. Otherwise, I'm going to have to kick your ass, right? But if you have integrity, it absolutely works.
Want to master your money? Want to figure out the things that you could do to improve your finances? Click here and check out more videos like this on Money Matters.